and gentlemen, it is indeed my pleasure and privilege to introduce to you Dr. P.B. Jayasundara. Of course, you might consider it a superfluous exercise. Dr. Jayasundara does not need any introduction, particularly to this audience. If I were to ask one of you during the class, who is Dr. Jayasundara, and you scratched your head for an answer, I would have given you not just a 0 but a minus mark. However, tradition has to be followed. Dr. P.B. Jayasundara, currently Secretary, Ministry of Finance and Planning and Secretary to the Treasury, has served the government for almost 35 years in various capacities. He started his career in the Central Bank, where he served in the Economic Research Department. He joined the Ministry of Finance and Planning in 1990 as an economic advisor and was appointed Director General, Department of Fiscal Policy and Economic Affairs in 1995. He became Deputy Secretary to the Treasury and Secretary, Ministry of Finance in 1997, in which position he served till 2001. Apart from holding office at the Ministry of Finance and Planning, he also served as the Chairman of the Public Enterprises Reforms Commission from 1997 to 2002. During the year 2003, he served as a consultant inter alia to the IMF and the World Bank on country assignments until he was reappointed as Secretary to the Treasury and Secretary Ministry of Finance and Planning in April 2004, in which position he served till September 2008. In September 2009, he was reappointed as the Secretary to the Treasury and Secretary Ministry of Finance and Planning. He was also appointed as the Secretary Ministry of Economic Development in April 2010. Dr. Jayasundara holds a Master's and a PhD, Master's degree and a PhD in Economics from Boston University, which he obtained in 1984. He has a Master's degree in Development Economics from Williams College, USA, and BA Economics and B.Phil Economics from the University of Colombo. Ladies and gentlemen, we are extremely happy that Dr. Jayasundara has been able to accept our invitation and be present here today to deliver the keynote address, or what we call the Convocation address. This PDPA program, from which you benefited, was initiated by him. You went through a tough 18 months course covering subjects which are close to his heart. You studied inter alia the macroeconomic framework, development planning, sectoral planning, cross-cutting issues of development, the medium-term public expenditure program, the annual budget, the management process, including HRM and MIS, project preparation, appraisal, monitoring and post-evaluation, as well as law relating to public administration. I am sure Dr. Jayasundara will agree with you that these are subjects all senior executives of the government should know, at least be aware of their value. The budget 2010 has set out a target of 8% growth in the next 5 years, with an average investment of 40% of GDP. A daunting task indeed when you think of the suggested level of investment and the past experience. We may not, however, need all that investment. With an ICOR of 4.5, we could achieve the same result with only 36% of GDP as investment. But to do that, we need to have policies and programs which are both effective and efficient. To my mind, there are 4 fundamental conditions to be met. Firstly, we need conducive macroeconomic policies. Secondly, we need adequate and relatively cheap infrastructure. Thirdly, we need high-quality human resources, which means better education, health and health facilities. And last but not the least, fourthly, we need a highly motivated and skilled public service. I am sure Dr. Jayasundara will look after the first 3. He is in full control of macroeconomic policies. He is well on course with regard to infrastructure development. He has a big say in education and health through the levers of financial controls. Unfortunately, the Ministry of Finance, to my mind, has so far played a suboptimal role in regard to public service capacity development. which is the cornerstone of building an efficient and effective public service. The subject of administrative reforms is not alien to the Ministry of Finance and Planning. In 1986, Dr. Jayasundara was still in the central bank when the National Planning Department initiated action to set up the Vanasinghe Administrative Reforms Committee, which finally came out with a brilliant set of recommendations encompassed in 10 volumes. Those findings and recommendations are still valid, but unfortunately remain only on paper for academics and researchers to read, indeed internationally. The 10 volumes adorn the libraries of many learning institutions abroad. The establishment of the committee itself was a daunting task, with President Jayasundara taking a rather lukewarm view, refusing to set up a commission, instead agreeing finally to a mundane committee, which however performed magnificently. The saga of the Finance Ministry initiative, with the full backing of the then minister, is worth telling, perhaps at another time. I am sure Dr. Jayasundara does not need to be convinced of the strategic importance of administrative reforms. The point, therefore, is that given Dr. Jayasundara's position in the government, it is not beyond the scope of the Ministry of Finance and Planning to play a decisive role in making it a reality. Thank you.
Professor Karnaratna, Vice Chancellor, Jayasundara University, distinguished members of the Board of Management of PIM, Director PIM, members of the faculty, distinguished invitees, participants, ladies and gentlemen. First, let me congratulate all the participants for their successful completion of their diploma. Also, let me thank Dr. Lloyd Fernando for giving a very traditional introduction, probably to suit the occasion, but also giving some insight of the administrative reforms that this country will have to think of seriously. I am generally reluctant to come for this kind of occasions because I consider these are occasions that should be addressed by very exceptional learned people. And I don't consider I am an exceptional learned person. Nevertheless, when I came here, with a great reluctance, I will explain how I accepted this invitation. But when I came here and had the rare privilege of sitting next to Dr. Surya, who is probably not very much known to you all, is one of the pioneers in opening this economy in 1977, and he is still active. The others are not as active like Dr. Tilakaratne, but Vikrama is active, and he is a member of the Board of Management and member of the faculty. And he told me two things in a very short conversation I had. One is, PIM does not depend on the national pilot. And that is music to me. Because I don't think I have any agency in Sri Lanka, public agencies, which do not depend on us. Those who are not even getting money want a letter of comfort at least. That's the public sector we have. So in a situation like that, when there is an institution like this, awarding very colorful degrees, certificates, etc., with high repute from the market, which has a huge premium, I am very thrilled about that news, and also feel very comfortable. I am in an audience where I can relaxedly perform my task. That 126 of them were sponsored by the Ministry of Finance and Planning, and 51 others from conflict-affected provinces have been sponsored by the respective provincial councils. I am encouraged by this target audience, who represent two unique segments that require to be strengthened almost immediately to transform our country into a post-conflict development scenario. One segment consists of officials of the Ministry of Finance and Planning. As we all know, the task of the Ministry of Finance and Planning is very complex and challenging. Our strength is the solid foundation and organization structure which we have inherited from our predecessors. It is a rock-strong organization, so much so that nobody has even attempted to make any change. It has also a solid functional structure. Any one of you can go as a Secretary Treasury and you can deliver exactly any best performing secretary has done, simply because it has a superstructure in that organization. It had not been subject to ad hoc institutional changes that many other line ministries have undergone in the past 3 to 5 decades. While that is the strength, the weakness is the gradual erosion in the human resources quality available to meet the challenges confronted in performing our task. This erosion is not unique to Ministry of Finance and Planning, but is widespread in the entire public sector. And for that matter, it can be seen in some of our private sector organizations as well. It may also be a reflection of the quality of education, or can be due to recruitment and promotional arrangement followed, or the combination of both. However, why it happened is not what is relevant. What is relevant to my mind is to admit that it has so happened and to do what has to be done to correct this situation, which is a journey chosen by the Ministry of Finance and Planning. Our success depends on the quality of our staff, because our ministry by definition is skills driven. We need to engage in a major human resource capacity development drive. Our ministry, under the visionary guidance of His Excellency the President, has even decided to set up an Academy of Financial Studies of world class. And I wish to seek the expertise and technical cooperation of the PIM, which has come up to this level so well, to facilitate this process as a PPP. Of course, not the private-public partnership which everybody speaks. I mean a public-public partnership. I hope that this request will be treated very positively by PIM. The second category of officials who are in thirst for skills are from conflict-affected areas. There are 51 of them here. They lost access to quality life and hence professional development due to an obvious reason, that is the 26-year-old conflict. We are extremely grateful to the two provincial councils and the PIM for affording this opportunity to the 51 officers to address the acute shortage of knowledge through this type of program and positioning them to be able to successfully face post-conflict development challenges. Ladies and gentlemen, Sri Lanka is now not only a post-conflict country, it's a middle-income country. Our country has graduated to this level under most difficult conditions. As far as I know, no country has achieved a middle-income economy status in the midst of a prolonged conflict, while facing such other grave challenges as well. We should be proud to note that our country was able to manage those challenges. Today, our country is enjoying unique advantages that we could not even think of during the past several decades. One is that the conflict has ended, and hence risk and uncertainties faced in every sphere of life have disappeared. Second, the country has graduated to infrastructure development in modern ports, power generation, road network, irrigation and telecommunications, helping us to shift away from uncertainties associated with infrastructure support. All these achievements are due to sustained public investment of around 6% of GDP per annum over a 5-year period. I am sure Dr. Levit Fernando will admire this, as he is one of the few who believes, in my mind, in protecting public investments. I know personally, when I was a mid-carry officer in the central bank, how he voiced his concerns in the 80s and 90s, when all multilateral agencies and government technocrats were moving in one direction to compress public investment to address fiscal adjustments. Third, the global economy, which suffered due to the collapse of global banking and financial institutions in the latter part of 2008, with the prediction of a major depression similar to that in the 1930s, none of us know that, has fortunately recovered with a marked shift in the global economic power base towards countries which were considered third world a few decades ago. Most of such emerging economies are in Asia, and we see a future in which at least 10 Asian countries, in my view, will be the world richest in one way or the other in the next 10 years. At least 5 of them will be the world's topmost economies, and at least 2 countries, namely India and China, will be the nations growing at 10% per annum and will be capable of changing the economic landscape of Asia. They will not be mere hyper capita income economies, but will be nations driven by science and technology. So we are living in a promising regional economic environment, which is essential for us to achieve and maintain our planned economic growth in excess of 8%. Last but not least, our country has gained political stability, blessed with a charismatic and visionary leadership. In my view, economic development needs not only peace, investment, infrastructure, and favorable global condition, but also needs a visionary and caring leadership when the country reaches the stage of economic takeoff. All emerging economies have proved this hard political reality. These 4 requirements, that is peace, infrastructure, regional development, global regional development, and political stability, we have, together with those, with the resilience which our economy has demonstrated in the past 5 years, pushing us from $1,000 per capita income to $2,000 per capita income, provides us with a unique opportunity to take off, to become an emerging economy. The government has set the target of $4,000 per capita income, that is double the current per capita income, by 2016. This means Sri Lankan society need to work much harder than in the last 6 years. It is not mere hard work, but it required quality work. It does not permit us to waste time, resources, material, space, people and skills. The speed to reach the $4,000 per capita income target requires an accelerated process from 8% growth in GDP over the medium term to 6% growth thereafter, 10% growth thereafter, to sustain development.